I should have known something was wrong when my CB radio went silent at exactly 2:47 a.m. After 15 years hauling freight across the Midwest, I'd learned to trust my instincts, and that night, every fiber of my being screamed at me to turn around. But I had a deadline, and the fog rolling across Interstate 70 didn't seem like anything I'd driven through 1,000 times before. I was dead wrong. The fog came in fast, thicker than anything I'd ever seen. One moment I could see my headlights cutting through the darkness for maybe 200 feet, and the next it was like someone had draped a wet blanket over my windshield. I slowed down to 40, then 30, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The highway was completely empty, which wasn't unusual for this stretch of Kansas at 3 in the morning, but the silence felt different. Wrong. Even the usual static and chatter on my CB had vanished, replaced by an eerie dead air that made my skin crawl. That's when I saw her, just a silhouette at first, standing on the shoulder of the road, barely visible through the swirling grey mist. As I got closer, my headlights illuminated a woman in a white dress, her long dark hair hanging wet against her face. She was facing away from me, completely still, like a statue someone had abandoned on the roadside. Every rational part of my brain told me to keep driving, but something made me stop. Maybe it was the thought of her being stranded. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe something else was pulling the strings that night. I rolled down my window and called out to her. "Ma'am, you need help?" The fog seemed to swallow my words. She didn't move, didn't acknowledge me at all. I grabbed my flashlight from the passenger seat and climbed down from the cab, my boots crunching on the gravel shoulder. The air was thick and cold, carrying a smell I couldn't quite place, something like standing water and decay. I approached her slowly, that survival instinct in my gut telling me to get back in the truck. But I pushed it down. "Miss, are you okay?" I reached out to touch her shoulder, and that's when she turned around. I wish to God she hadn't. Her face was wrong, all wrong. The features were there, eyes and nose and mouth, but they seemed to shift and blur like I was looking at her through rippling water. Her eyes were completely black, no whites, no iris, just two dark holes that seemed to pull at something deep inside my chest. She opened her mouth and smiled, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too many, arranged in rows like a shark. No sound came out, but I heard her voice inside my head, clear as day. "Take me with you." I ran. I don't remember making the decision to move, but suddenly I was sprinting back to my truck, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I could hear footsteps behind me, fast and getting closer, but they didn't sound right. They sounded wet, slapping against the pavement like bare feet in puddles. I threw myself into the cab and slammed the door, fumbling with the keys as something hit the passenger side door, hard enough to rock the entire 18-wheeler. I got the engine started and floored it, not caring about the fog or visibility or anything except getting away from whatever that thing was. In my side mirror, I could see her standing in the middle of the road, still smiling that horrible smile, watching me disappear into the mist. The fog didn't lift for another 40 miles, and when it finally did, the sun was coming up over the horizon. I pulled into a truck stop, my hands still shaking so bad I could barely hold my coffee cup. I told the waitress what happened, and she just nodded like she'd heard it all before. The CB crackled to life at midnight, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. "Breaker, breaker, this is Nighthawk looking for a convoy heading east on I-80. Anybody out there?" I'd been driving alone through Nebraska for 6 hours straight, fighting to keep my eyes open, so hearing another human voice felt like a gift from God. I grabbed my handset without thinking twice. "This is Iron Horse Nighthawk. I'm eastbound through Nebraska, just past mile marker 347. Where you at?" "Right behind you, buddy," the voice came back, friendly and warm. "Got 3 more rigs with me. We're running a convoy to keep each other awake. Want to join us?" I checked my mirrors and saw nothing but empty highway stretching into the darkness, but fog was starting to roll in from the fields on both sides of the road, thick tendrils creeping across the asphalt like searching fingers. Maybe they were further back than I thought. "Sure thing, Nighthawk, I could use the company." "Excellent," he said, and something in his tone made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Just maintain your speed and stay on I-80. We'll catch up to you soon, real soon." The fog got thicker after that, reducing visibility to almost nothing. I slowed to 50, then 45, my high beams practically useless in the grey soup surrounding my truck. The CB stayed active though. Nighthawk kept talking, joined by other voices. They called themselves Shadowman, Whisper and Graveyard. Odd handles, but truckers were known for having strange nicknames. They talked about the road, about the fog, about how easy it would be to just drift off the highway and disappear into the cornfields. Their conversation felt off, like listening to people who had forgotten how normal humans talk to each other. They spoke in perfect unison sometimes, finishing each other's sentences in ways that made my skin crawl. "Beautiful night for driving," Nighthawk said. "Beautiful night for dying," Shadowman echoed, and they all laughed, a hollow sound that didn't carry any real humor. I kept checking my mirrors obsessively, but I never saw headlights behind me. Nothing at all, just that impenetrable wall of fog. "Hey, Nighthawk," I called into the CB. "I'm not seeing you guys back there. You sure you're on I-80? Silence for a moment. Then all four voices came back at once, speaking in perfect synchronization. "We're right behind you, Iron Horse. We've always been right behind you. You just can't see us yet." My blood ran cold. I pushed the accelerator down, bringing my speed back up to 60, despite the limited visibility. Something was very wrong. The voices on the CB got more insistent, more aggressive. They told me to slow down, to stop, to pull over and wait for them. They said they just wanted to meet me, to see my face, to welcome me to their convoy. The way they said welcome made it sound like a threat, like they wanted to make me one of them, whatever they were. That's when I saw the lights in my mirror. Not headlights, though. These were strange, flickering lights that seemed to float above the road, pale and ghostly like foxfire in a swamp. There were 4 sets of them, hovering where the cabs of trucks should be, and they were gaining on me fast. I pushed my rig as hard as I dared, the engine roaring, my cargo rattling in the trailer behind me. The CB exploded with voices, all of them screaming now, telling me to stop, ordering me to join them, promising me that I'd never be alone again, never be tired again, never have to worry about anything ever again. I saw an exit sign emerge from the fog, exit 353, and I took it without hesitation, cranking the wheel hard enough to make my trailer fishtail. The lights followed me down the ramp, but as soon as I left I-80 proper, they stopped at the end of the exit, hovering there like they couldn't or wouldn't leave the main highway. The CB went silent, cutting off mid-scream. I drove surface roads for the next 50 miles, my heart pounding, before I finally felt safe enough to stop at a 24-hour diner. The waitress who poured my coffee looked at me and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost, honey." I almost laughed. 4 of them, I told her. She nodded slowly. "Let me guess. I-80? The fog convoy?" I just stared at her. "You're not the first," she said. 4 truckers died in a massive pile-up on that stretch back in 2003. Fog came in sudden. They never saw each other until it was too late. Folks say they're still out there, trying to add to their numbers, looking for company in the endless fog. I never drive I-80 through Nebraska anymore. I don't care if it adds 6 hours to my route. Some shortcuts aren't worth taking, and some convoys you never want to join. I picked up the hitchhiker near the Oregon-California border because I was lonely, exhausted, and stupid. 3 strikes that almost got me killed. The fog had rolled in around sunset, turning the world into a grey void where my truck seemed to be the only thing that existed. I'd been on the road for 14 hours, and the endless white lines and guardrails were starting to blur together, making my eyes feel like they were full of sand. When I saw him standing under the flickering light at the rest stop, thumb out, duffel bag at his feet, I thought, why not? Company would help me stay awake. He looked normal enough when he climbed into my cab. Mid-30s maybe, with a scruffy beard and tired eyes that matched my own. Thanks for stopping, he said, his voice rough, like he hadn't used it in a while. Not many people pick up hitchhikers these days. I shrugged and pulled back onto Highway 101, the fog closing around us like a fist. I get it. Everyone's a serial killer until proven otherwise, right? He laughed at that, but it sounded wrong. Too high, too long, like a recording played at the wrong speed. We drove in silence for a while. The only sound, the rumble of my engine and the occasional hiss of air brakes. The fog was getting worse, forcing me to slow down to 35. I couldn't see more than 20 feet in front of my hood. Hell of a night, I said, just to break the silence. He didn't respond immediately. When I glanced over, he was staring at me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. His eyes reflected my dashboard lights in a way that human eyes shouldn't, like an animal caught in headlights. "Do you know what lives in the fog?" he asked suddenly. I laughed nervously. "Besides terrible visibility and the occasional deer." He shook his head slowly, never breaking eye contact. "No, the things that wait, the things that watch, the things that follow." I decided right then that picking him up had been a mistake, but we were in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fog so thick I could barely see the road. I couldn't exactly kick him out. "Look, buddy," I started to say, but he cut me off. "They're following us right now, can't you feel them?" And God help me, I could. That primitive part of my brain that still remembered being prey was screaming that something was wrong, that we were being hunted. I checked my mirrors and saw shapes moving in the fog behind us, darting between the swirling grey curtains. They looked almost human, but their proportions were wrong, their movements too fluid, too quick. "What the hell are those?" I breathed, my hands tightening on the wheel. The hitchhiker turned to look behind us, and when he faced forward again, he was smiling. It wasn't a human smile, his mouth stretched too wide, splitting his face in ways that shouldn't be possible. "My family," he said in that voice that wasn't quite right. "You invited me in. Now they can come too." I slammed on the brakes, not caring about the load, not caring about anything except getting this thing out of my truck. The hitchhiker flew forward, hitting the dashboard, and for just a moment, his form seemed to flicker and blur like bad television reception. I saw something underneath the human disguise, something with too many joints and eyes that glowed pale white in the darkness. He hissed at me, a sound no human throat could make, and reached for the door handle. "Thank you for the ride," he said, his voice now layered with other voices, dozens of them speaking in unison. "We'll see you again soon. Fog always comes back." He dropped out of the cab and disappeared into the mist. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I threw my truck into gear and floored it, driving blind through the fog, not caring if I hit a guardrail or went off the road. All that mattered was putting distance between me and whatever that thing was. The shapes followed me for another 30 miles, always just at the edge of my peripheral vision, keeping pace no matter how fast I drove. They were playing with me, I realized. They could have caught me any time they wanted. When the fog finally started to lift near Eureka, they simply melted away, vanishing like they'd never been there at all. But I knew better. I knew they were still out there, waiting in the fog, waiting for the next lonely driver who would make the same mistake I did. I don't pick up hitchhikers anymore. I don't drive at night when fog is in the forecast. And sometimes, when I'm driving through clear weather and I see fog rolling in from nowhere, I pull over and wait it out. Because I've learned the truth that every trucker who's driven long enough eventually discovers some things live in the fog, ancient things that don't belong to our world. And they're always hungry for the unwary traveler who wanders into their domain. The highway is theirs when the fog rolls in, and we're just visitors in their hunting ground, prey that occasionally gets away to tell the tale.